Thank you for joining me in this episode of Women in Science. We have the power to change the world. I'm Yifan Gao, a PhD candidate from Civil and Environmental Engineering Department at University of California at Los Angeles. I'm also the International Student Event Officer at GradSWE UCLA. GradSWE stands for the Graduate Student Community of Society of Women Engineers. We are at UCLA section. We are going to host a series of interviews of female scientists, and we hope we can encourage more women to join the community of STEM. Our guest today is Dr. Alexandra Polasko-Todd. She's a postdoc from Department of Urology at Stanford University. She's working to elucidate biomarkers and therapeutics for prostate cancer and benign diseases. She graduated from Civil and Environmental Engineering Department as a PhD. Hi, Alex. Thank you. Yeah, hi. It's really nice to have you here, and it's really excited to have my old landmate to join today's interview. So Alex used to be my landmate, and she's the best mentor. I look up to her, not only in research but also in the lab, like all the stuff. So Alex, yeah,
It's great to be here. I'm so happy to be here today on your
yeah,
channel, and I'm so excited that you're doing this
yeah,
because I think that we could definitely use more
to encourage
of
more
these
women.
types of
Yeah,
and
yeah,
just hearing
yeah,
about
and
different journeys.
yeah. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Alexander Alex Velasco. I'm currently a postdoc here at Stanford University in the School of Medicine in the Department of Urology. I got my PhD in civil and environmental engineering at UCLA, and then I did a 1 year postdoc at UCLA as well in the oral biology and sort of molecular biology departments at UCLA before coming to Stanford.
That's super cool. Do you want to just simply introduce your research, like what you did in civil and environmental engineering, and then urology department, like really basic introduction?
Yeah. So my PhD work was focused a lot on utilizing microorganisms to break down different recalcitrant and carcinogenic groundwater pollutants, as well as also working with the chemistry department to create a coating that could reduce biofilm formation on medical devices. So my PhD really dealt with the duality of the microbial world, right? Promoting and engineering and optimizing bacteria that could break down groundwater contaminants, which is really good. And then also trying to reduce pathogenic bacteria from forming infections on different medical devices like catheters. And then in oral biology, I looked at elucidating different virulent factors actually in oral pathogens and
Yeah.
commensal in our oral microbiome, and how bacteria in our mouth can actually progress different types of cancer, such as like colorectal cancer, which is obviously not in our mouth. So how can the microorganisms, the microbial communities in our mouth affect other parts of our microbial communities and health? And now I would transition to urology, where I'm looking to um, develop different biomarkers and treatment for prostate cancer and benign prostate diseases. There's one in particular I'm researching right now called benign prostate hyperplasia, which is just the enlargement of the prostate. Happens in almost all men as they get older, and then it causes a whole host of um, really
Yeah.
poor symptoms, for
Yeah.
men. So I'm working right now on trying to understand the mechanisms behind these diseases and hopefully find some treatments.
Oh, that's super cool. Yeah, because my grandpa also suffered from the urology, like the
Yeah,
disease you just talked about. I really hope, yeah, he could get the best treatment when he was alive. So yeah,
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 no,
I
it's
think
it's a really big problem and it occurs. I mean, cancer is one thing also that's a huge problem,
yeah,
but also these other benign diseases that just impact our quality of life, daily
yeah,
life. So also having research on those is really important
mm,
too. I have a dad, a brother, a
yeah.
husband. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
totally understand.
grandpa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, from civil environmental engineering to urology, that's a huge step. I cannot imagine that. It's like totally different field, like from engineering school to like medical school. Do you want to share your story, like how you were able to cross the field and continue your research in urology and that? Yeah, I really want to know.
Oh, if you asked me if I
Yeah,
was gonna be in urology, if you asked me,
yeah.
during the first or second year of my PhD, I would say, "What are you talking about?" Like, no, just trying to pass my engineering classes.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it sort of just fortuitously happened where, I part of my research in my as part of my
yeah, yeah,
PhD was a little bit clinical. It was, it's trying to test these different materials and coatings for different surfaces to
yeah,
reduce biofilm and adhesion. And we were thinking about that in terms of environmental applications, reduce biofouling, right, for filters and things like that. You don't
yeah.
want to gunk up those filters for environmental purposes. But also, we thought of medical, like, oh, for example, catheters are often a site of microbial adhesion and infections for people in the hospital. And we thought, oh, this might be a really great application. And so my brain started to think about sort of engineering in terms of
Oh,
medicine. And so that's when I was looking for my postdoc right after my PhD, I wanted some sort of connection between the microbial world and medicine. And it just so happens that our oral microbiome and the bacteria there, as I was just talking about, really impact our health. And that's where I started to then go further into the clinical world
yeah.
of medicine and working with different, cancer models and mouse models
Mm,
and understanding just treatments and things like that. And from there, I realized I was actually really interested in sort of
mm,
urological sciences
mm,
and sort of my work with catheters, and I moved even more into the medical side.
yeah.
So that's where I applied for a postdoc position. I was like, I'm not sure I'm totally the perfect
Yeah,
fit for this. Um, but the faculty advisor, my advisor now,
okay.
Dr. James Brooks, and he took a chance on me, both him and also the postdoc advisor at UCLA, Dr.
Yeah,
Hung Tomnat, and then my PhD advisor, Dr. Shaili Mahendra,
okay.
all really took a chance on me. I was like, sure, you can learn. um, so it's something I think you do learn in a PhD is how to learn. So
Yeah,
it just as long as you have the interest in that field and the support from your mentor,
yeah,
you can go into a new field. And I must say, it is challenging.
yeah.
There is that startup time where it's like, oh, I just spent 6 years, now feeling like an expert and being able to teach everyone and answer all these questions, with ease,
Yeah,
to then starting over. You're
yeah,
like,
start again. Yeah, I know. When you first join the oral department, am I right? Is it medical? Yeah, and
hmm
then you told me you have to like work in the lab. You have to actually work with mice.
it's
We
totally
never
different.
yeah, it's totally different. So like pretty scary, pretty challenging, but also really excited. So
Yes.
yeah,
And
follow.
different too. I
Yeah,
realize there's like a lot of differences
yeah,
between engineering, a
yeah,
more engineering atmosphere, whether it be
yeah,
environmental, mechanical,
yeah,
electrical, and then more medicine side of things. The
yeah.
types of grants, the types of lab setups, it's just very, very
It's
different.
totally different. Yeah. You know, I also
Yeah.
work in the biomedical lab. It was like totally
Right.
different world. Every time I walked from, engineering department to medical lab, I feel like, oh, there's like totally different world. So it's like totally different.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
follow up. So right now you're a postdoc. I want to ask this question for all the PhD students. So what's the major differences between the life of postdoc and graduate students, master or PhD student? Yeah. You're staff right now. You're not students anymore.
Ah, although when there's a discount involved,
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
postdoctoral student. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 No, that's a great question. There is this a weight lifted off your shoulders because you
Yeah.
have your degree and you're like,
Yeah.
I made it. I finished. Oh my
Yeah.
god. It happened. It happened. So there is this weight lifted off your shoulders.
Uh-huh.
Um and if there so that's really wonderful. And you feel like, okay, you have this chapter of your life that you've completed. Um
Yeah.
and So that's really wonderful, and it opens
Yeah.
then you have this, like, point in life where you feel like all these other doors are opened, because
Mm-hmm.
for me, at least, it was like, "Okay, just finish." You're just on this track
It
where
was,
you're like, "Okay, just get to the next step, publish your paper, get to the your defense or your, qualifying exam," things like that. Once you have your PhD, you're like,
yeah.
"Oh, wow, I can apply to industry, to postdocs,
Mm.
to faculty positions," all these different doors open,
Yeah.
which is scary, I
Yeah.
must say, because, hopefully, most of the PhD students were able to sort of cultivate a community in our
Yeah.
PhD, and we've become really comfortable. So it is a little bit scary to have to go
Yeah.
into a totally new environment.
Yeah.
Um, I must say it it does feel like a little bit more like a job. Like not like
Oh,
in a
yeah.
PhD it is too, but there is that kind of student element to it. In
Yeah.
postdoc life, it is more like you can still take classes, which is really
Mhm.
great. You can audit
Yeah.
courses. I'm auditing an immunology course right now, so that's a really
Oh,
great
yeah.
perk. Um, and but it is, you're kind of you're working on a project. Um, it does feel like you're more like a staff researcher maybe than which is a little different than maybe being like a PhD student.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's a big difference in postdoc life I've noticed between even oral biology and
Mhm.
now being strictly in the School of Medicine. So at
Yeah.
UCLA, oral biology is actually the School of Dentistry.
Yeah.
And then also you were still kind of in life sciences. And then now at Stanford, I'm in the School of Medicine.
Mhm.
In oral biology, we had undergrads, grad students, staff scientists, postdocs. So all the different types of students,
Yeah.
in one lab. Now I'm in a lab where we only have postdocs,
Only
only postdoc,
postdocs?
only postdocs, a
Oh.
staff scientist,
Oh.
and then a technician. So it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit
That's a,
different working.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
pretty
different,
typical in
different.
the bio, like in the medicine, in
Right,
the
and
school.
medicine, I
Yeah.
think maybe more money or again, my Dr. Cook, my PI,
Yeah.
he has clinic. He used to do surgery. So it was just difficult for him to be able to mentor, say someone starting off in their PhD all the way through. So it's a little bit easier to take postdocs and, people who already have
Mhm.
been through that,
Yeah.
critical thinking learning process to then start in the lab. So we're a little bit more independent, I think, and
Yeah.
that's another thing I noticed the difference. There's definitely that requirement to be very independent and sort of figure things out. um, so the freedom to do that too, which is really nice. Like you have a lot of freedom. Um, but different, very different environment. I noticed too of like there's I have to really seek out mentorship if
Yeah.
and for me to mentor different people and then for people to mentor me,
Mm.
which is okay. Again, as a postdoc, I've taken that time and with Dr. Mahindra, in the lab
Yeah.
to cultivate that skill. So
Yeah.
now it makes total sense. But
Yeah. So
different,
right,
different.
different. So right
Yeah.
now you
Mhm.
don't need to mentor undergrads, right? Because you don't have undergrads in the lab,
Not
PhD, like
yet.
you used to do
No.
in our lab, like mentor us.
And
You don't need
even
to
in
do that.
oral biology too, it was
Yeah.
the same. Yeah, it was we had those different, types of students. Yeah, here, much different. There
Yeah.
isn't that. I think that's something I'd love for us to bring into the lab is to
Yeah.
bring some more undergraduate students. I think that to get them excited about urology. I don't know how
Yeah.
often people hear about urology. Because you don't I'm
Yeah.
actually I don't have an MD, right? Some people
Yeah.
in the lab have MDs, some people actually have their veterinary degree, some people
Oh,
have
yeah.
PhD. So you don't have to have your MD to work in the School of Medicine, which I think
Uh-huh.
some people don't necessarily know. You think, oh, School of Medicine,
Then,
MD,
like,
PhD,
yeah,
MD, yeah.
MBA.
But no, you don't. So I think getting undergrads in is actually something I'm hoping to, help do within our lab
Yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
but right
you,
now we don't.
it's like an advertisement. Like all the students, if you are interested in urology, you're interested in the School of Medicine, you can always join and contact Alex.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, no, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's something I think we should absolutely do. And
Yeah.
even master's thesis students and things like that, because we're doing a lot of basic and
Yeah.
applied research that
Hmm.
that could use scientists with different backgrounds.
That's super cool. Yeah. So talking about mentorship, I have to emphasize that Alex is the best mentor you can ever imagine to
Thanks.
have. So yeah, so she's also a great teacher. So she won the teaching award when she was at UCLA, and she's quite devoted to teaching. So I have a question, like, what made you chose to to be so passionate about teaching?
I I think teaching is what's actually keeping me in academia,
Yeah.
um,
Uh-huh.
and because I just really I just love seeing someone who has enthusiasm to solve a
Yeah.
problem, but not the skill, and then
Yeah.
being able to give that person the skill and the know-how to then be able to answer those questions that they
Questions?
wanted
Yeah.
to, yeah, and solve the problem that they have this enthusiasm for and give them that skill, and that's really what teaching is about, going from novice to expert.
Mhm.
And I think I felt a lot of imposter syndrome in undergrad and grad school.
Mm,
And
yeah.
if it weren't for the people that really cared about me and
Uh-huh.
took the time to make, and compassion
Yeah.
to make me feel supported and that I could do this, I don't think I would be here. So, in fact, I
Yeah.
know that because grad school is really hard and
Yeah,
lab work
that's
is
true.
really hard. And if you don't have that support, really difficult to make it through those low points. And so I really love seeing that when I can do that for someone else and
Yeah.
bring them enthusiasm for whatever problem I'm trying to solve.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think that, and that's really what's I love the research side, but I think really teaching is what's really held me in mentorship and
I
academia.
am totally related to that. I would say every
Yep.
time I was in like a really hard time, whether it's like middle school, high school, or even during undergrads, I got a lot of support from my teachers, from my professors, and then that made me to like actually decided to pursue the graduate school and have like teaching passion to like actually pass my knowledge and my support to people. So I'm totally related to that. I believe that made you to be a great teacher and won a lot of awards here. Yeah, I was in your class. It's like I wanna
You're
be
a
in your
great
class
student.
again. Yeah. And okay, so do you have any valuable experience that you wanna pass on to us, like to pass to all the PhD students who are right now
Mm,
a teaching assistant, or they wanted to be like
uh-huh,
teaching assistant or associate, yeah, during their
mhm.
graduate school. Yeah.
I think my two pieces of advice are is first, the students will not necessarily remember what you
Yeah.
say, especially as time goes on, but they
Yeah.
will remember how they felt, right? And I
Okay.
think it's that feeling that students really take with them over time.
Hmm.
So when entering the classroom, it's not about being perfect. It's not
Yeah.
about the showing the perfect equation or the perfect worksheet or the. It's about, I think, showing that you really care about the
Hmm.
students and their well-being and that you understand that you were in their shoes at one
Yeah.
point and to some degree. And so I think that is really how, as teachers, we have to connect
Mm.
with our students, and they have. I think students are quite forgiving, to be
Yeah.
honest. And so, right,
Yeah.
whether we mess up or something happens, they're quite forgiving. And just knowing though that teacher, that TA cares about them and
It's
genuinely
the
wants
ca
to be
yeah.
there is makes all the difference. All the difference.
Yeah, I understand, yeah.
Right.
I I
And
I
that's
can
what they
remember,
remember.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can remember one of my TAs, when I was in Berkeley, and
Yeah.
she was really good. I couldn't remember any knowledge or any topics she talked about, but I know she made a lot of worksheets, and also every discussion she treated every discussion really seriously. So that's what I can remember,
Yeah.
but I couldn't remember like what equations
Right.
she
No,
put
you'll
on the
you'll look that
on the
up again,
whiteboard.
right? You're like,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And like when a student is distressed or really stressed
yeah,
out, it's like not kind of dismissing it, but being there for them.
yeah,
It makes all the difference. And then the second piece of advice
yeah.
I have, that I actually just sort of realized in the
Hmm.
postdoc is taking every opportunity when you're in front of whether it's one person, a one-on-one, or at a conference or in a
Yeah.
TA position as teaching opportunity. Because for example, in the School of Medicine, I realized there's not as many TAing.
Mm,
My professor, Dr. Brooks, doesn't
mm,
teach really. Dr. told
mm,
that in oral biology didn't, teach as much as I saw in engineering. So there aren't as many TA opportunities and things like that. So I really had to seek out different opportunities and really take even seminars or even, one-on-one mentorship as viewed as teaching.
uh-huh.
So how can I teach this research? Whereas before I might think of a seminar as, okay, I'm just presenting my results and hopefully
Yeah,
people think I did good. But now framing it as, okay, I'm teaching them. How do I
yeah.
engage the
Tell the
the
story.
audience?
Yeah,
How do I tell the
yeah.
story? Exactly. Which I don't know if I would have thought, okay, TAing, that's my teaching time, and then
Yeah.
everything else is like research and academic stuff.
Mm.
So now viewing every opportunity in through the teaching lens, if that
Yeah, I
makes
think
sense.
that your teaching experience sort of like build up like all your I don't know how to say that. It's like give you the inspiration that when you are actually doing the seminar right now, like to teach people something. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I had a lab mate who was really
Yeah.
nervous. He was thinking about applying for faculty positions and things like that, and was like, "Oh, I don't know if I have enough teaching experience." And I told him, I was like, "What do you mean? You're teaching every day. You have
Oh
three
yeah.
different undergraduates, that look up to you and that you guide every single day that you are teaching. You just gave a seminar to, for the whole department. What are you talking? Those are all different teaching opportunities that
Yeah.
you can speak to when, it just so happens to be for a faculty position he's applying for, but there are,
Mhm.
let's say you haven't had many official TA or
Yeah,
lecturing
yeah.
positions, right? But there are so many different ways to talk about how you engage students.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I will feel pretty nervous when I'm already like I think it's first time I teach my first time as a teaching assistant. But I still feel, I'm not quite qualified. Yeah, like I feel pretty nervous but it's like sometimes after a year I have to be a TA again. I will feel pretty nervous. Like, am I gonna say the right thing? Like my public speaking skill is still there. But I think yeah, you're right. So basically like everyone is practicing the teaching like basically in their daily life, like teaching undergrads, like trying to teach themselves about the research is also a teaching experience. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think, I oh gosh, I every time presentation, moving,
Yeah.
I definitely felt that imposter syndrome as well. Even
Yeah.
coming here to Temper, it's like I don't have an MD. I I'm not a cancer biologist.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of worry and fear. Um, but then I just when I get to the bench, I was like, okay, you know what? Every lab bench is pretty similar in terms of
Yeah.
as like a surface of my
Yeah.
ethanol. Like, okay, we can go. Like, I
Yeah, we
just
can
kind
go.
of like,
Yeah.
yeah, take a deep breath and be like,
Uh,
okay, just what small things kind of bring comfort and like,
yeah.
yeah. And then also I think relying on support. Like, in
Mhm.
fact, in fact, I had sort of like a low point a week or so ago, and it was so wonderful just to be able to text like my group of
Yeah.
women
Yeah.
support. Yeah, that was like, "Hey, I'm
Yeah.
having a really tough moment. I'm having a really tough
Yeah.
time here." Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like meant so much to just have those lab mates who all just be like, "Oh, you got this," and I was like, "Wow, that really made a huge difference for me." Again,
Yeah.
at that low point where I was like, "I don't know if this is gonna work for me,"
Yeah.
and y'all brought me back. So I think
Yeah.
that's important.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad that I brought you back. Yeah, so you're talking about female support. Okay, so that question is for my organization, the GradSWE Graduate Student Community of Society of Women Engineers. So, as a female scientist, what challenges have you met in the way that you make these big decisions? Like, you change your major, you change the department, and also there's like a lot of probably will be a lot of big decisions in your lives, like what challenges have you met during that time? Yeah.
Yeah, there oh, so many. um, I think a recent challenge for for me was realizing that as we get older, there are other elements
Mhm.
in our life that become um, really important
Yeah.
and help sort of uh, I want to say limitations, but sort of shape
Mhm.
where we can go in our career and how to best maneuver that. And what I mean by that is, um, for example, I have a partner, a husband who needed to move for his job.
Yeah.
And so, sort of, we had this two body problem where it was like, okay, where can we do for both of us that can work for both
Mhm.
of our careers
Yeah.
and location, as well as taking care, our parents are getting older. So, okay, how can we also, and grandparents, be there for
Mhm.
them to help with that? So,
Yeah.
these other factors of family and that also are important. That I think when I was in grad school and being a little bit younger, I just sort of was, you're laser focused
Yeah.
on just want
Like,
to finish my degree. I know I'm
mhm.
here until I graduate. Whereas when you graduate, you have a bit
Yeah.
more of an option. It's just a job, right? It's just a
Yeah.
job.
This job. Yeah.
So, yeah, a great job,
Yeah.
but just a job.
Yeah.
And so that's been really difficult, and having to change, situations maybe sooner than
Mhm.
I might have if I didn't have any other responsibilities in the
Yeah.
world, even though that's not realistic.
Yeah.
So it was, in fact, I received a fellowship at UCLA called ERACTA. And it's for
Mhm.
postdocs. It's a great life sciences fellowship for
Yeah.
people really excited about teaching. So I highly recommend it if you're at UCLA, where it's for postdocs who want to then also teach at a Cal State school.
Yeah.
So like I think UCLA partners with Cal State LA. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I received this fellowship. It was really great. It was research and teaching, but it was in a point in my life where I needed to move on to the next step.
Good.
And
Yeah.
so there was part of me that was like, oh, a little bit sad about this
Yeah.
opportunity, but realizing that, what, there are other doors to open and this is what's right for sort of all the areas of my life.
Mhm.
And so I've had also some faculty, unfortunately, um, sort of question my decisions
Mhm.
as,
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
researcher and what changes I've needed, which has been really tough. As I think for particularly as a female, this is one that's come up
Yeah.
as a female where um, the changes I've needed have
Mhm.
been questioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sort of my motive for
Yeah.
changing at a certain time have been questioned,
Mhm.
which is really difficult
Yeah. I
because,
totally understand.
I'm so just again that support network. And then luckily I was very,
Mhm.
I had taken a lot of time to
Yeah.
figure out which path was right for me.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't feel good to have some sort of questioning motive or question why you're
Yeah.
changing. And so I think that's been really, really difficult. That was a really difficult thing for me
Yeah.
recently
True.
with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think it's a really tough decision. Yeah, I totally admire that you make that decision and also to balance your work and family. I know it's like a really cliche topic, but I heard a lot like female scientists, they're facing this, especially those challenges, especially when their life, they have to make a big transition in their lives, whether it's for family or I won't tell it's like I won't say it's like a sacrifice, but I feel like it's a really big decision and also relation.
Yes.
But I'm glad you right now you're at Stanford.
But I'm
Yeah.
no, I'm so happy, and no matter what their sacrifices, I think I realize like no
Yeah.
matter what, it's if you're not sacrificing for, you're
Yeah,
sacrificing one thing or another,
another, yeah, another. It's like a lifestyle. Like we
balance.
have to do that. Yeah, make decisions. If we make decisions, which means we can only choose just one way, and the other way
Exactly.
will. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So you made a lot of big decisions. Do you have any female role models that you look up to when pursuing your career?
Uh, I I really look up to um, the mentors, the
Mm.
graduate students when I was a high school student and an
Oh,
undergrad. So
yeah,
at ASU, I had a graduate student, Mahal Zavel, Dr. Mahal Zavel, who I remember as a high school student, I didn't know
yeah,
anything. And she just sat with me like every lunch I was there and would explain these different pathways. And I was like, wow, I
Oh,
was like a nobody high school student. And then, and then I got to college at Berkeley. And
yeah,
Dr. Sherry Mao, who's now a professor, she like
yeah,
again just uh, took the time and was so kind. And like whenever if I messed up or something happened, she didn't shame me. She was just really supportive.
mhm,
And then moving on to Dr. Shelley Indra and
yeah,
my PhD advisor, she even, being out of my PhD, I'm realizing
yeah,
like, wow, I feel so grateful and so fortunate
yeah,
that in some really difficult times, in the beginning of my PhD, I almost dropped out
mhm,
because there was a
yeah,
really
really difficult,
difficult
yeah,
dynamic. Yeah, it was,
yeah,
things were not going well. And he really had my back.
yeah,
And I remember being really surprised because I was really new. So I was like, oh,
mhm,
and she, from the beginning, day one, was like, had my back to get me to stay.
mhm,
So that
yeah,
was really, I remember that just being like, oh, wow, no matter what, she's got my back. And obviously, with
yeah,
advisors, it's,
yeah,
oh
she's
my gosh, it's so,
she's the best, yeah,
she's the best. Yes. And no matter what it's like, oh, I just want to graduate. But after you like have perspective and you're like, oh, wow.
yeah,
And I think, at the end of the day, also, I think the last person who's been a role model from
mm,
probably day zero was my mom
yeah,
because
yeah,
she
your mom,
designed it. Yeah, she
yeah,
designed it, and I don't know if I realized when I was
mhm,
younger how awesome it was having a mom who was in science, was
yeah,
making me feel good about science, and like I knew things, and that really mattered. And even now, just
yeah,
being able to talk with her and she
yeah.
can understand what I'm talking about and was excited for me. It's been really cool. It's been really, really
Yeah,
cool.
she posted a lot of your
Oh
achievements
my,
in LinkedIn. So
this is
basically,
my
I'm
mom.
following like liking all the posts. Yeah, it's
Yes,
yeah,
my mom.
yeah.
She's
I
getting
like
really good at
Smileys.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, and she's also in the environmental engineering field. She's I think she chaired one of my sections. Uh, when I when I presented in the conference. So yeah, she gave me a big hug after I did my presentation. After the session ended, I was like, oh, it's so supportive. I didn't
Oh,
feel pretty
I heard
well for
about
my
that.
first presentation, and your mom gave me a big hug. I was like, okay, I can do
She's like,
better.
you did so good.
Yeah,
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 no, I remember she told
yeah,
me about it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
She's like the
when
mom
I,
of environmental engineering,
yeah, mom, yeah, it's like it gave me a lot of confidence to do my next presentation, and then I feel like yeah, it's pretty supportive. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
good, good.
so my last question is: do you have any advice that you would offer to women who are thinking about pursuing the STEM field?
Yes, yes.
Mm,
I think first is again going back to that, finding your allies and your support, the people that you can
yeah.
go to
Hmm.
when an obstacle comes up that seems so overwhelming because that will happen
Yeah.
no matter what. And I think it
Yeah.
happens actually it happens in PhD and then it happens in postdoc. And I think it
Yeah.
happens in the feeling I feel in postdoc is even
Yeah.
stronger than PhD. Because PhD, you're still like, it's okay, I don't know anything.
It is. Yeah.
But you've spent now, you've got a PhD, you're like, okay, I know things, I'm an expert in this, field, this certain area. And especially if you change fields, that all
Yeah.
goes away. That
Hmm.
it really all goes away, especially in the beginning. And
Yeah.
so there's this, at least I felt very lost, in the very
Yeah.
beginning of like, how do I anchor down? If it weren't for those certain people I could rely on text when I was
Yeah.
really down, I think it'd be
Yeah.
even more difficult, especially as, you
Yeah.
know, I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I'm an emotional person. I think it's a really beautiful thing about me, but I think it's also something that as a woman, I really need. I need that support. I can't just be isolated alone.
Yeah, because
So
you
that's
step out of your comfort zone. And yeah.
exactly, and especially if you step out of your
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yeah.
Um, and I think, and again, those allies don't they come in all different shapes and sizes and forms. Whether it
Yeah.
be, for example, maybe it's an undergrad that's actually your person to go to, or a grad student, or your advisor, or staff scientist, or it doesn't have to be like your closest colleague that sits
Really,
next to you,
yeah.
right? It can be any type of person. I've had undergrads that have really been
Hmm.
a support, a huge support. So
Yeah.
I think that's something to just sort of remember too, that oh yeah, it can come in different style. Um, and oh, my other piece of advice:
Yeah.
don't be afraid to apply for a
Hmm.
position that you don't feel 100% qualified for. And I think this is something I
Yeah.
realized happens maybe more with women. I know for myself, I was really
Yeah.
nervous about applying for a postdoc, but I
Yeah,
didn't
that's
meet
true.
every criteria. Right? I was like, oh, even for
Yeah.
the position I'm in now, I did not meet every criteria. And I was like, I really don't know if I should apply for this. And honestly, I don't think professors are looking for someone that necessarily fills all those criteria. They're just like, right? They're
Yeah.
looking for someone who has the fundamental basics of science, and then has critical thinking skills. And
Hmm.
I think something I've noticed is that my male counterparts are
Uh,
they're like, of course
yeah.
I can apply, like I'm awesome.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, oh, I don't know if I good enough, am I qualified enough? And so now, having gotten two positions where I don't think
Yeah.
I was met 100% of the criteria, I definitely want to express to other women that take that shot,
Yeah.
because it's likely that you are a good fit, and that the
Yeah.
professor will value all the skills that you bring to the table.
Hmm.
So and then I also just reach out to the professors, especially if you're looking for
Hmm.
a postdoc. All the positions I've gotten, and when I've interviews and responses
Yeah.
have all been when I directly reached out to the professor. I've applied
Yes.
for some that were like broader positions through like an institute or
Mm.
something, but
Yeah.
they're just sort of a number then. Whereas when
Yeah.
you directly email the professor, it starts that dialogue.
Yeah.
They're usually really excited to communicate with you. So it's just a
Hmm.
different experience than like applying to
Yeah.
undergrad or even grad school, where you're just like an applicant, on a page, as opposed to directly communicating with that faculty.
Yeah. I think I totally agree with that. It's like take that shot, actually be brave to make like the first step. When I was like a master student, I'm thinking about, like pursuing ecology, microbial ecology field. So I basically reached out to that professor, and even though I didn't get that position, I feel like that professor actually we had an in-person meeting together, and she gave me a lot of advice, and then like basically guide me through the PhD application and everything. Even though I didn't get that position, I feel like I feel really appreciate her help. So it's like I think it's
And you
really
got a
important.
response, you got to
Yeah,
have a
got the
dialogue, like,
response. Yeah,
yeah,
after
so
joining multiple
valuable.
like group meetings in the lab, like basically like whole year of group meetings.
Yeah,
I feel yeah, I saw like a totally different world. I was like, yeah, it's a really valuable experience for me,
yeah.
even though I didn't got a position. But right now I'm at
No, I'm
UCLA. I'm
so
pretty
proud
yeah.
of you. Yeah, no, that takes so much courage.
Yeah.
And again, you even just the practice of interviewing and
Yeah.
learning, that's
Yeah.
so valuable. So yes, I think you are an example of how exactly we should be doing it. Yeah.
Thank you. You're an example. You are the guest today. Yeah. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you. Thank you for all the amazing advice and all your stories. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Happy to be here. Yes. And if anyone's interested in
Mm.
urology
Yeah.
at Stanford,
Yeah.
we can put my email. Maybe we can put my email.
Yeah. Okay. I'll definitely put your email. You'll be at the thumbnail and it's like the poster. So definitely reach out to Alex if you are interested in urology and also like major transferring and all the stuff. Yeah. She's the best.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Women in Science. We have the power to change the world. Please hit the subscribe button and follow us to hear more stories from female scientists.